Alright, welcome back. Today I'm going to be fixing a mistake that I made, and I'm not sure if you had picked this up on previous videos. Now I've already kind of cut out a piece of it, but let's see if I can get this camera to focus here. The veneer, when I pressed it, must have slipped, or maybe I just didn't align it right, but there's a maybe a 1/16 of an inch of a gap where the veneer did not cover the substrate. So I'm going to show you how I go about fixing it. Again, you can kind of already see, maybe if it's in focus, that I already used a chisel to outline the end of the cut, and the end of the cut right here, and then I put a rule down on top of those cuts, and then used a razor knife to connect the two cuts. And so now I'm going to go ahead and chisel that out and try to get a replacement piece of veneer in there, fix it. Alright, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to excavate a cavity that is pretty straight, pretty square, I mean in this case rectangular, but something that it's not going to be hard to match up. And I'm also trying to get rid of any glue residue that might be in the way, because obviously I'm going to have to come in here and have to re-glue this down. So if there's any glue residue, sometimes that can interfere with the adhesion. Other times it can kind of produce a bubble or a pushed up piece of veneer there. So, alright, that looks pretty good. So, I'll zoom in here. So that's what I'm looking at now. That is the excavated cavity. Now, the way this veneer is running, I'm going to have to match the grain as best I can. Again, this is on the underside. If you've been watching the rest of these, you know that. So it's not really critical that this looks great. It just has to look better than a gap where there's no veneer. So probably use this piece right there. That looks pretty good. And I'm hoping I can just take a slice off of that and use this same piece here, which looks pretty good. Yeah, okay. So what this tells me is if I take 3 slices off of this scrap about 1/4 of an inch thick, that should be enough to do what I gotta do. Do that. Pull out my trusty MDF. It'd be nice if I had a chisel wide enough to make this cut in one piece, but alas I don't. So I'm going to use the ruler and the razor knife, hopefully. Key here, especially for this long grain type of veneer, is to take it easy when you're using a razor knife or even a veneer saw. It's very easy. If you try to push down and hog through it in one cut, you'll break a piece off the backside. If you guys watched the mistake video that I made earlier, you can see that I did that already. See, I broke a little piece off of that, but that should be all right. I'm going to use, for the first time ever, Tight Bond Quick and Thick. They're not a sponsor yet. I just got this, actually. I've never used it before, but it seems like this would be a pretty good spot to use it in. I don't need a lot of working time, but I do need something that is going to grip and it's going to hold pretty quickly. Next piece. That is not the best match, but again, this is the underside. Not a big deal. Okay, definitely this piece. All right. I gotta say it's looking pretty good so far. I mean, the grain doesn't match, but again, it looks a lot better than the gap, a hole in the veneer. Now, if this were on the front, I could have, painstakingly matched the veneer from one of the scraps of hopefully cut-offs of the very same pieces, but I'm not going to go through all that here. that's it. I'm going to let that dry for at least an hour, possibly 2. And I'm going to come back and very carefully, with a flush trim bit, bottom mounted bearing, and just try to trim that off. And then from that point, it's just a matter of sanding it down, matching this this curve, this round over, very, very slight, and I should be ready to oil the back. Thanks for watching. Alright, so I did what I said I was going to do. Let that dry. Came back in with a router and a flush trim bit. Flush trimmed it, sanded it down, and oiled it, and this is the end result, which, as I said earlier, isn't flawless. It's not a grain match, but it's veneer, it's covered, it looks a lot better than it did. And again, this is the bottom, the back of the chessboard, so we'll probably not see the light of day. It just makes me feel better knowing that that gap isn't there. Thanks for watching.